Right now, it's middle February. Back home in Rochdale, it's sleeting sideways and my old street looks like a black and white photograph. And me? I'm sat on a terrace in the south of Portugal in my shorts. A cold beer sweating in my hand and the sun on my daft bald head. In a minute, I'm going to ring a bloke called Kev who told me this was impossible. I've been looking forward to that phone call for 2 years. I'm Derek. I'm 71. I left school at 15 and spent 45 years as an electrician. Knees, ladders, other people's lofts. Me and my wife Sheila have been married 48 years. We're not posh, we've never had money, and we are, by any measure, the last people you'd expect to just up sticks and move abroad. And yet, here we are, living in the Algarve, on our pensions, in the sunshine. Now, when Brexit happened, everyone, and I mean everyone, told us that people like us had been locked out of Europe for good, that the dream was dead. Our son said it, the telly said it, the bloke in the pub said it, loudest of all. They were wrong. Let me tell you how we proved it. Here's the thing they don't understand. The Algarve wasn't some fantasy for us. We've been coming here on our holidays for 20 years. 2 weeks every September. Same little town, Lagos. Same cafe. Same fella grilling sardines on the front. We knew it. We loved it. And somewhere along the way, sat on that beach watching the sun go down, we made a plan. When I finally packed in work, we'd come and live here. Not rich, just warm, just happy. Then along came Brexit. Now, I'm too old and it's too daft for me to get into all that. But here's what it meant for two pensioners in Rochdale with a dream. The door that had always been open, the one we'd assumed would always be open, quietly shut. No more just turning up. And the message we kept getting over and over was, that's not for you anymore. Our galley sat us down, our own son, and very gently, like he was talking to a pair of confused toddlers, explained that it simply couldn't be done. Dad, you're not in the EU now. You can't just move to Portugal. There's visas, there's money, there's the language. Dad, you can't even order a coffee in Portuguese. Fair point, that last one. And Big Kev down the feathers, point in hand, delivered the verdict the whole street seemed to agree on. Europe's shut to us now, Derek. Brexit, mate. Put paid to all that. And I went home and I looked at Sheila, and for the first time in my life, I thought, maybe the dream really had been taken off us. And I'll be honest with you, that sat very badly with me. Now, I'm a stubborn old sod. Ask Sheila, she'll tell you, at length. And something about being told that's not for you, by my son, by Kev, by everybody, it lit a little fire under me. I thought, is it though? Is it actually impossible? Or does everyone just think it is because they read a headline? So I did something I'd never really done in my life. I sat down at the computer. Sheila had to show me how to open the thing properly. And I started digging. Not for a night, for weeks. And what I found made me sit up. Brexit hadn't closed the door at all. It had just changed which door you used. Britons couldn't stroll in for free anymore, true. But there was a proper, legal, above-board visa for people exactly like us. Retired, on a pension. They call it the D7. And the more I read, the more I thought, hang on, we might actually be able to do this. I'll not pretend it was simple. The D7 wants proof of a steady income coming in. A pension counts. And between my work's pension and our 2 state pensions, we scraped over the line. It wants a bit of savings sat in a Portuguese bank, and it wants documents. Oh, the documents. Birth certificates, marriage certificate, a police check to prove I'm not a master criminal at 71, cheeky beggars. Everyone stamped and translated. Sheila wobbled. Derek, she said, what if we get out there and it all goes wrong? We're not young. Everyone says we're mad. And I understood it. Leaving our Gary, leaving the grandkids, that was the hard bit. The only hard bit. And I'll not pretend otherwise. But I asked her one question. I said, Sheila, love, in 20 years, do you want to be sat in Rochdale in the rain telling people we nearly did something brilliant?
Or do you want to have done it?
She didn't say anything for a bit. Then she said, put the kettle on. We'll make a list. 48 years I've loved that woman, and never more than right then. So we sold up. Little Terrace, gone. And we booked 2 one-way flights to Faro, hearts in our mouths, with half of Rochdale convinced we'd be back by Christmas. And for a while, it looked like half of Rochdale might be right, because nobody warns you about the paperwork after you land. There's an outfit called AIMA, the immigration lot, and dealing with them tested me more than 45 years up ladders ever did. We'd get an appointment, drive miles for it, and get turned away over a form nobody had mentioned, then wait months for the next one. There was one gray afternoon, and yes, it does go gray here. They don't tell you that either, where I sat in a heap of paperwork with my head in my hands and thought, Kev was right. They were all right. And I've dragged Sheila halfway across the world to prove it. That was the low point. I very nearly rang our Gary and asked him to make up the spare room. But we didn't quit. We chased, we queued, we filled the forms in again, and bit by bit, it came together. The residency card turned up, and the moment it did, everything changed. Because here's what nobody back home had actually done: the sums. Our little rented place near Lagos, 2 bedrooms, a walk from the sea, about 1,100 euros a month. A proper lunch out, the pair of us, glass of wine each, 15 euros, near enough. A cold beer on the front, barely a couple of euros. The same 2 pensions that had us counting the pennies in a cold house in Rochdale. Out here, in the sun, they stretched. Not to riches, to a good life. And after all that grey, a good life felt like winning the pools. That was 18 months ago. And I sit here now, and I can hardly believe it's us. I've got a routine. Coffee on the front of a morning. I still can't order it properly. I just point and grin, and somehow it works. There's a whole crowd of us out here. Brits, Irish, a couple of Dutch, proper friends, the kind you don't make easy at our age. Sheila's joined a painting class. She's terrible. She loves it. Our Gary came out in the spring. Same lad who'd sat us down and explained we couldn't do it. He got off the plane braced to rescue us, and instead we took him for sardines by the marina and watched him go quiet. On his last night he said, I'll be honest, Dad, I didn't think you had it in you. And I said, neither did anyone else, son. That's rather the point. And then there's Kev, which brings me back to that phone call. A few weeks ago, I propped the phone up, the sea and the sunshine behind me, and I rang the feathers on a wet Tuesday night and got Big Kev on the line. I didn't gloat. Well, not much. I just held the phone up to the view and I let the Algarve do the talking. I'm 71 years old. I left school at 15 and I've never had a bean. and I'm living in the sunshine in a country everybody swore was closed to me. Here's the only clever thing I'll ever say, so write it down. They don't get to decide what your life can be. Brexit shut a door, aye, but a door isn't a wall. There was a window all along, and hardly anybody bothered to look for it. So if you're sat somewhere gray, being told you're too old, too skint, too late, do me a favor. Go and check for the window yourself. You might get a surprise.